I'm the associate editor of the SJSU Writing Center blog, The Right Attitude, and with me today is Lita Kurth. She is a San Jose local writer, De Anza professor, and head of several writing workshops in the Bay Area, and co-founder of the Flash Fiction Forum. So starting off today, my first question is, what attracts you to flash fiction? What is beneficial about writing in this medium?
Well, I like to have something fast to work on when I'm writing a novel, because I need a break, and flash fiction can be written pretty quickly. I've written a first draft sometimes in 15 minutes. When I'm teaching, I'll often give my students a 15-minute writing time, and I'll write too. And I've gotten some of my published pieces from those 15-minute times.
Yeah. In terms of that, is there any editing how much do you edit after that process?
Oh, quite a bit, but because it's small,
it's easy to work with.
It's very doable.
Sure. Oh, cool. So you've been teaching all over the community, from college students to young students to aspiring writers in the Bay Area, for years, both in person and online. Why do you feel it's important to share your love of writing with writers of all ages?
Well, I do feel that my teaching feeds my writing, and that being part of a writing community is what keeps people going. Very few are going to achieve really significant fame and publication, at least on a high scale or a notable scale. But being part of a writing community and connecting with other people and their writing struggles and their writing triumphs, that just feels so rich to me.
Right, gotcha. Does the creative writing advice you give to students often change depending on their age? How do you encourage first or beginning writers to start out?
Well, it varies more based on their experience than on their age. For example, I recently taught a most wonderful 3-week writing workshop at the Recovery Cafe in downtown San Jose, and that's a place where people who have been homeless and are homeless can spend the day in a place where they won't be tempted into drugs and alcohol, and they'll get a lot of support and job training. So the people that I taught, some were, you might say, not scholarly at all. Probably not the kind of people that would ever be in college,
for sure.
A couple of them. And I started with simple things. I started with some simple poems like Pablo Neruda. He has his question poems and his praise poems. So I start with something really simple that they can for sure master. And then we go into sensory description of just what's around them. I often hand out a leaf or a rose petal.
And you just said, write about those things, or just talk about what you want to talk about?
Well, I got this from Damon Knight, who's a wonderful sci-fi writer, and he also wrote a great writing book. But he said, look at an object for 3 minutes until you notice something about it. And then, so I have them do that, and then I have them write in extreme detail everything about it, how it smells, how it feels, and then after that I ask them to write the autobiography of this leaf or this rose petal.
Nice. Did any of them require any sort of encouragement, or was this, they just did it?
Well, I think when it's presented in sort of a normal, everyday manner, people usually feel that they can try it out. And then when they were willing to share. I had one student who just couldn't overcome her block. But the vast majority of students were eager to share. And when it's done in a supportive and encouraging way, that only feeds the interest to do more.
Wow, that's really, really cool.
I happen to have a friend who is in jail, and he told me in a recent letter that he thinks he could get together a little creative writing workshop, and I could send him the prompts and he could lead it.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to do that maybe in September.
That's so awesome.
And I think that would be very cool.
Yeah, I think that's like super enriching for that sort of life. Yeah, definitely. So what do you learn about the writing process by teaching or working with younger writers or less experienced writers?
Well, I'm reminded of when I first began. What I mostly needed was encouragement and permission. A lot of the early books that I read, like Brenda Uland and Natalie Goldberg, they really didn't teach me a lot about technical details, but they encouraged me to believe in myself.
Nice. Yeah. And do you use a lot of those concepts when you're working with students or anyone in your...
Yeah, I really try to, well, everybody's creative.
Right, yeah.
And everybody can write something that's interesting and fun and cool.
So do you also do any like technical work with younger or less experienced students, or is it mostly about encouraging them first so they can experiment?
Well, it depends.
Okay.
I recently taught for a week a creative writing camp that was students just out of middle school.
Right.
And they were so talented one-on-one, and in the class I could not get them to share more than a sentence. It was the strangest experience because I haven't worked with a group that young except when my daughter was young, and with she and her friends. I don't know why it was easy, but it was so funny. At one point, somebody started twiddling a pen with his thumb.
Oh, right, yeah.
And in 5 seconds, everybody in the room was twiddling a pen with their thumb.
Yeah.
Thought these people are herd animals.
Yeah.
So it was a little bit tricky. It's the iceberg, you know. The best part is invisible, and you just take it on faith.
Right.
And it was there. When I talked to them one-on-one, I was blown away by their talent and their intelligence.
Wow. Gotcha. So as someone who has put together several chapbooks within the community of San Jose, how has bringing together more folks in the community, like why would that be more important to do?
Well, I really feel that people are starved for community, and that isolation is a very big part of modern life. And a lot of times people don't know where to go to connect. You know, where can they perform their work? Where can they meet with like-minded people? So I'm very lucky that I'm connected to a school, because it was not too hard to find some students. Like when we did our sort of political resistance reading, some of the people who read were poet laureates from the area, and some were students from De Anza College, and professors, and everybody, I think, got to know about somebody beyond their community. So it's very cool.
Yeah. In terms of like outreach or like getting more members to join, is there any events that you can like advertise yourself, or is it mostly through De Anza or whoever happens to hear about it?
You know, so much has happened through word of mouth.
Gotcha.
Poetry Center San Jose is really helpful.
Yeah.
And Mighty Mike McGee is a force to reckon with.
For sure.
And I guess I intersect with a lot of different writing communities, and I'm not shy about inviting people to submit.
Right.
You know, practically every time I meet a writer.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's hard, because even when you get something like an interview in the Metro, it's still not that easy to find out how to reach the public and let them know about it.
Where your ideas come from, and how do they influence your work?
Well, there is a certain mystery to where creativity comes from. But I do like to do absurd things. I really enjoy technical challenges, like write about work and have two people in conflict and include beer, facts, and a piñata.
Right.
Constraints really help me, and I like the liveliness that physical objects that don't seem to go together. I guess there's a part of me that likes the puzzle, trying to put them together. And then there's another part of me that's very psychological, and I want to know how people might react. And
you mean to your work?
No, I mean inside, like the characters.
Yeah.
Like if someone were in this situation, what might that person say or do? And I try to really imagine it truthfully.
Gotcha. Yeah. And do you like start to, when you do these like absurdist kind of exercises, do these things slowly start to become a part of your, I don't want to like make a deviation between actual work and exercise, but like, do you start to take these absurdist things seriously?
Yes. In fact, when I'm working on the two novels that I've worked on, both started out as goofs and then got really serious.
Right.
So I hope, in the best of worlds, you have something that's poignant and funny. Mark Twain. That's the best of worlds. So I aim for that balance, but it's so hard.
Like tonally?
Yeah. I have this textbook I bought a long time ago called The Writer's Control of Tone. And when I bought it, I have no idea what they were talking about.
Right.
But I sure do now.
Yeah, gotcha.
And it worries me.
Nice.
I'm a very political person. So almost whatever I'm writing, it will start to have this little hidden political dimension to it. And I don't mean parties, but I do mean concerns about, justice.
Right.
About fairness.
Yeah.
For example, I recently performed a piece called Thrift Dating. And I imagined that thrift stores started becoming dating sites.
Right. Nice.
I imagined some people going there. And then part of it was, well, what if they were sorted by color? What if they were sorted by size?
Whoa. Yeah. That's really wild. How do you know when a piece is finished?
Well, there are those who say a piece is never finished, it's just abandoned. And as we know, Henry James rewrote some of his books and republished them. But I usually try, if it's short, I try to read it out loud, perform it, share it with a group. And at a certain point, I suppose, this is a stupid hallmark, but if it gets published, I usually consider it finished.
Gotcha. Yeah, I mean, that's fair. That's one indication of that. On top of that, when you're working with a piece that's taking a bit long to sort of finish, say like, I don't know, 9 months, how do you deal with sort of the disconnect between who you were when you started to how it looks now and who you are when you finish? Like, how do you, like, are you still satisfied with the product?
Well, my first novel took 7 years. And it was so excruciating.
Yeah.
I threw away half of it. Gotcha. And that was half I had worked pretty hard on. And I am sure if I looked at it again, I would want to rewrite the whole thing.
Gotcha.
But at a certain point, I do have to move on.
Yeah.
So. Just the other day, I had this idea. I want my book to be something that I would pay $24.95 hardcover to buy. I want it to be that good. Right.
Gotcha. So in terms of, like, that also kind of conflicts because you'd want to keep making it $24.99, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a challenge. Yeah, gotcha. So in terms of the present, are there any current projects you can talk to us about?
Yes, definitely.
Cool.
So I'm still kind of shopping my Rosa Luxemburg Socialist Strip Club novel. And we'll see if that ever gets published. But in the meantime, I'm halfway through. I hope I'm halfway through a new novel that's about this young woman who gains entrance to a surreal cat community in the Oakland, Berkeley area.
Wow. Is this based on a true story?
No.
Okay, gotcha.
These cats have a hospital.
Mm.
They're doctors.
Okay.
And therapists.
Gotcha.
So far I have not met any cat therapists or cat doctors.
Fair enough. Yeah, but in terms of like the dialogue or anything like that, is that based on experience with mental health professionals in the area, or you just...
well, yes. I try to update it. Thank God I have a college-age daughter, so she helps me with the language.
Gotcha.
But I have kind of a religious friend of my main character, and I have a political friend of my main character.
Nice.
And so that trio kind of forms these conflicts.
Yeah, that feels like a good blend though. Like you say the word conflict, but to me that's like, oh yeah, that's nice. That's like what you want.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. And in terms of is this going to be a novel, or are you thinking this? Okay, gotcha.
It started out as a flash.
Nice. I mean, the concept feels like a flash. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's awesome. Is there any other flash fiction you're working on that's more short?
Yes, I'm working on a collection of sort of wacky love stories.
Nice.
And I have a whole set of kind of historical flash fiction, but I don't think I hit the mark on those. And I recently got my issue of Plowshares, and there was a guy who did this beautiful piece on Zero Mostel when he was called before the House Un-American Activities Committee.
Gotcha.
I never knew Zero Mostel had any political, but I thought, that's it. That's how you do it. So I'm going to look through how that guy did it.
And then
go back to
rework.
some of my
Gotcha.
figures and see if I can do that myself.
That's really interesting. Cool. That.
Too many projects is my middle name. But one thing that I put together, why did I do it? Oh, because I had been giving my classes this wonderful piece by Natalie Diaz. It was a imagined Navajo Barbie.
Okay.
And I asked them to imagine Barbie dolls that never existed or never could exist.
Right.
And I got things like radical Catholic activist Barbie.
Right.
Or chemo Barbie. So we put together a reading. And it was just super fun. And that was at the School of Visual Philosophy. Nice. And some of the people who couldn't be there still wrote fabulous pieces. And so our next step is that we want to produce an anthology of those pieces.
Yeah.
And it
that's
just
awesome.
So happens Barbie turned 60 this year. So
wow.
the time
That's
seems
perfect.
really good. Yeah,
that's awesome. Cool. So we just wanted to take the chance to thank you again for all of your time today. And you can follow us on our blog, Twitter, and Instagram to see the updates as we continue to interview other authors.
Thank you.